Center. And this is your final webinar, I think, for the year, if I'm not mistaken. If not, somebody will correct me. But this is a very short webinar. A lot of it is based on things that you have turned in your area. So this is advertising design. I did get a few lesson plans. What I would encourage, if you haven't turned anything in yet, if you could, to send in 5 easy math questions for your program area. It would be great to get a booklet together. We have some, we don't have enough. I don't think you can ever have enough, but you know, the more that everybody turns in, the more you're going to get back from this overall. So if you can, if you haven't turned those in, that would be great to either turn them in to Jennifer or I or Kathy, whoever you want to send them to. We will get them to whoever needs to have them. So without further ado, this is a very short one. This will be under 10 minutes, and we can start. The first one I want to start with is a really neat one, and Danielle, if you're going to listen to this, this is a great format, and I'm pretty sure I saw Danielle at a presentation before doing this, and I don't know how many people have seen this, but I think this is phenomenal. What she has done is she has taken a T-chart, which are the charts that PD has created, and she has created her own little lesson plan to work with this chart. And I think the lessons are great. So she actually took the chart and actually built a lesson plan around it. And if you notice, she has the academic standards there. And you know, some people are very concerned with the fact that these are not the Common Core. There is a difference, I will tell you, there is, but don't get concerned at this point with the fact that they aren't. You know, these are still, no matter if they have the right number on or not, they are still math lessons that are going to be used for the majority of our students. So it's very important to realize, don't worry about sharing things necessarily that still have these old numbers on. They're great in regards to that. What she did was, and I'm going to show you next to each other, the T-chart itself, and she actually created a student writing companion to this, and I think this is really neat. It's a great format, and what it is it says, after skimming the first page of the T-chart handout, what do you think it's used for? And she's forcing students again to take information and actually use it in a literary standpoint, which is something students have trouble moving from the math to the literacy end of things. It's great she gives enough room to write, which I think is a very a shortcoming sometimes of math teachers, of us. We tend to want to put all the problems on the page and not give enough space for students to actually spread their work out, which students struggle with. And I think that's something, if you can learn from anything, is give them enough space to work. I know it might be cutting trees down or something, but they need to spread out their work because they need to see it. In the box below is a vocabulary word, and she says, she gives 2 spaces. What do I think it means? What it actually means? That's very good. That's a literacy strategy. That is great for math as well. And she uses, not only does she use the point pica terminology for advertising design, she also brings in the ratio, the rate, and the conversion factor, which are all words that they do see in regular math classes, and a lot of students don't understand those. And then next to it, it is the actual T-chart, and I just brought this in again just to show you, like all the other webinars that I've told the participants, you will get full copies of all this. They will be posted on the web somewhere, and just so you know, you're not going to just get these segments of things. You will get exactly the whole chart. Kim McBride from SunTech sent some very basic measurement problems. And one thing that's kind of neat here is I like the fact that she talks about the conversion rates and the way, you know, students need to start knowing that 0.875 is 7/8. And I know our advertising design teacher here, Mr. Simons, always says they need to be able to do that on the fly. A lot of jobs, a lot of places need you to do that. And actually, if you can do that, it allows you for easier math, because a lot of students would much rather multiply decimals than they would multiply fractions. So if you can start getting that conversion through it, it's great. The students learn a lot. The other thing is, what I liked is measure your 3-ring binder and write the decimal and fraction form. You know, you're doing things that are active, engaged learning instead of just sitting and writing math problems. So I like that. The other thing, the one thing that I've done here is, in the very beginning of the year, we do a lot of basic measurement reviews. And one thing I do is I'll start out with very basic measurements for a page or two, and then I'll go into something that's specific to the program areas. Again, this is not difficult math by any means, but it's something they might have to look at. It's something that they have to read and look at the picture and understand what they're doing. What's the length of the digital picture? It doesn't say subtract the big fraction from the little fraction to get the answer. It's actually not giving them everything they need to know. It's also looking at posters. It's looking at a digital media versus a drawn picture, which is the tree. So you also have the ability to talk about what's a digital versus what's a freehand drawn picture. So, and we do talk about that. And you know, as a math teacher, when I go in and co-teach with the teachers, it really is neat to have the students tell me what's going on, and it makes it more real, and it also makes them more excited about the math, because it's not just about the math, it's about advertising design, and the math is just thrown in there a little bit. The other thing Mr. Simons and I have created is a math lesson on the proportional wheel and how to use that. And although a lot of things are done computerized, this is something that, you know, he feels the students need to see how the proportional wheel works. And actually the math on the wheel is done for you, but this gives you the opportunity to introduce some of the ratio and proportions in without having to do it constantly. And actually, when we did this, if you look at the you try, follow your steps, when we looked at the wheel and then did the math on it, the students would say to me, we never knew that this is what this math is used for. We never knew that it related. Just like step 7, and I just put this in here, showing them that the cross multiplying the 8 by 10, and this becomes the 6 by 7.5, they're looking at it as pictures, but really it's a mathematical reduction in size. So, and just starting to talk about reductions versus increasing size. Reduction is a mathematical word too. They, you know, and it's talked about, and students don't think reduction means reduce. Reduce means shrink or subtract or different things. So again, it's those terms that you can relate that students don't know. And I'm going to tell you, as a person teaching in a very high ELL student population, students a lot of times struggle with getting things right on these math tests because they don't know the word, not because they don't know how to do the problem. So the words are so important. This is something I found online. For advertising design, this is a really cool way to look at a face. And advertising design is all about the golden ratio and looking at why do they choose certain models? Because of this ratio of your face setup. And what I liked about it, and the whole thing, this Math Bits is an interesting website as well. I have all this downloaded, but what's interesting is all the symbolism for the phi. And that's, again, there's a lot of symbols in math, and students don't get to relate how the symbols relate to different things. And by looking at all these symbols, you as their advertising design teacher can actually teach them this. Another thing which I think is great, and advertising, I know Mr. Simons does a lot with different charts and graphs, and you have the ability to, on the computer, is looking at some of these and throwing them out. Here, this one's really unique because you have to do two things. It's actually two dependent pie charts, and you have to find the total expenditures and find what part is advertising before you can take it and apply to the expenditures on advertising. So it's a really very unique situation that you're just not looking at one pie chart and being able to figure it out. So that again. And you have the ability to have a lot of articles. There's a lot of things going on in your industry out on the web. I know you use them a lot. Basic math for internet advertising. And again, this was an interesting one where they created a formula of basically the cost per thousand of things that the cost of advertising put on a website. And again, your industry, and you know the industry much better than I, but I'm sure most of your designs and creations at this point are being created in web-based format, in Publisher, in Illustrator, and things that you're going to publish them out online. So this is a great article, and it steps you through how the cost factor of the impressions that you put online. The other thing that I think is neat for advertising is some of these almost like bloopers in advertising. And if you look, I'll give you a second to look at that advertisement and tell me what the problem is with that. I'll stop talking for a minute, take a look at it, see if you can think about it. I know it's written there, but just by looking at it, if you notice up to a $12 value and they're selling it for $12.49, as an advertiser, you need to look at that and say, I mean, you can't control what the stores put down there, but you have to be very well aware where you're putting your pricing on different merchandise based on how they're going to sell it. And there's quite a few of these in here. There's actually some videos on advertising which are really good in this. It's called Whatever Suits Your Boat WordPress. Math and advertising that might be very interesting to your students. I know Mr. Simons pulls a lot of things up on the screen and talks about different advertising and how things aren't quite the way they look, and that's very important in your industry because you're all about impressions and first impressions, because first impressions in advertising can make or break what you're doing. So in that aspect, and to finish this short webinar, the next step at this point would be if you watch the Math Mysteries, and if you watch this mini webinar, you are ready to submit a webinar response form. If you don't have it or can't find it, I'm sure Jennifer Grahams will be sending out another one to you. I'm sure she can if you email her. There is a new deadline. I think it was the end of April, very beginning of May before. It's now changed to May 9th of 2014, which is actually very good because I know our teachers here are getting ready for graduation. We have a new student orientation night tomorrow night, and we just finished NACI, so this allows you some extra time to just get that response form in for your Act 48 credits. So with that said, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and if you need anything, you can contact any of us. Thank you to Danielle Wilbur, Steve Simons, Kim McBride, and Darcy, I'm going to take a guess at this, Cisnevics. I'm going to be wrong about that, and sorry, Darcy, I apologize for not being able to pronounce that. But thank you very much for submitting your lessons to us, because that's what makes these webinars and these PLCs worthwhile is your input and sharing across with your programs across the state. So thank you very much and have a good day.